Okay, so go ahead and prepare yourself for a lengthy video here. We're going to describe the Earth's major terrestrial biomes, and this is Objective 3. A biome is characterized by a climate and geography. You've got this mix of plants and animals that are adapted to living in a biome under certain environmental conditions. So the biome's going to repeat itself all over the Earth wherever the temperature and the precipitation are the same. A biome supports characteristic types of animals. However, you will see some migration from one biome to another. This at the top, you're looking at just a biome pattern of temperature and precipitation. And then at the bottom, you're looking at where the biomes are found all over the Earth. And you can see, based on the colors, that you pretty much have look where the red ones are. They're pretty much at the same area, or the green is in the same area. That's because it's got basically the same temperature and precipitation there. So you're going to have the biome repeated. Now the first biome that we're going to look at is the tundra. And it encircles the Earth just south of the ice-covered polar seas in the northern hemisphere. And it covers about 20% of Earth's land surface. Now, it has a very, very short summer, and because of that, only a very, very thin top layer of the soil ever thaws. The permafrost layer stays frozen all the time. So for that reason, you're never going to find trees there. The growing season is very short. The roots can't penetrate the permafrost, so they can only get in that top thin layer of soil that thaws. So you're going to see a lot of short grasses and lichens and mosses and maybe some dwarf shrubs, but you're not going to see a lot of other plant life there. You can see where the tundra is up in the top. It's showing you in the map. You can also see there's plentiful bird life. You've got a lot of vegetation, but like I said, no trees. And the kinds of animals have to be adapted to that cold. So you've got caribou and polar bears and snowshoe hares and those kinds of animals that you're going to find there. The coniferous forest, we often call spruce moose because the spruce are found there, spruce trees as well as moose. We call it the taiga. It's also called the boreal forest, so there's lots of names for it. It's near mountaintops along the Pacific coast of North America. It has cone-bearing trees. Trees like spruce and fir and pine. If you get a live Christmas tree at Christmas, it came from the taiga. The trees can handle the cold. The leaves and the bark of the tree have a thick covering on them, and the leaves are needle-like. So and you know how a tree, if you draw a tree, how it's shaped like a triangle with a point at the top? That's because those needle-like leaves and the shape of the tree, it can sustain and survive through the heavy snowfall. The temperate rainforest is an old-growth forest. Some of the trees here are as old as 800 years old. We're talking about those redwood trees in the Pacific Northwest. You see there's the moose and there's the spruce, and you see how it's right below the tundra. The temperate deciduous forest is found south of that in North America, Eastern Asia, and a lot of Europe. The climate here is very moderate. We live in a temperate deciduous forest. Deciduous just simply means that most of the trees shed their leaves in the fall. Now that doesn't mean that we don't have any of the pine trees like you would find in a coniferous forest, but our dominant plant life is going to have trees that shed their leaves every fall. We have relatively high rainfall and 4 well-defined seasons. We have a very long growing season that can last anywhere from 140 to 300 days. And we have plentiful ground life also. And you got trees, you've got shrubs, you've got grasses, There's the chipmunk, you've got invertebrates like the millipedes, you've got a lot of plant life, and then you've got a bobcat. So those are just representative species you might find there. Tropical rainforests are found around the equator, and they are the richest land biome. They have warm weather and plenty of rainfall. Most animals live in the trees. There's lots of insects. You've got epiphytes that grow. These are plants that attach themselves to the tree and they get their nourishment from the tree, like pineapples and bromeliads and orchids. The soil has no nutrients in it because nutrients are rapidly recycled. And there's three layers. There's a forest floor, there's an understory, and then there's the canopy. And you can see this here. And some of the animals never leave the canopy. And these are some representative animals that you would find there. All sorts, a lot of biodiversity there. Shrublands are along the coast. They have very dry summers and wet winters. A lot of shrubs. That's why it's called a shrubland. In California, they call it a chaparral. There's not an understory, not much ground litter, and they are highly flammable. That's why we hear a lot about California wildfires. And you can see here some of the representative species that you'd see. Lots of shrubs and, of course, a lot of birds and stuff like that. Grasslands tolerate grazing, flooding, drought, and sometimes fire. And you find these where you have more than 25 centimeters of rain a year, but it's not sufficient enough to support trees, so you're going to have grasses there. The temperate grasslands have very cold winters and hot, dry summers. Savannas are also grasslands over in Africa, and they have cool, dry season and a hot, rainy season. And you see there in the purple where they're found. And, of course, grazing animals, that's the bison, the buffalo that we're familiar with. Not many trees, though. And then here's the savanna, that you have some in South America, but you have a lot of them in Africa. Now, you're familiar with deserts. This covers about 30% of the Earth's surface. We find them at latitudes about 30 degrees north and south of the equator. The descending winds lack the moisture, so you're going to have less than 25 centimeters of rain each year. And there's a large differential in the temperature in the day and the night. It may get up over 100 in the day, but at night it drops well below freezing. Cacti, that desert fox, the roadrunner, and you can see where they're found also on that map. Now, moving to objective 4, and we're going to also cover 5, which has some key terms in it. Explain them. I'm going to stop.